Hey, y'all, let me tell you this. We usually struggle to go from pre-production to actually record. And then I read Parlay Pete, the dumbest tweet of the week, from Amaretta. All this time, I've been thinking Las Vegas was in California. What the fuck is a Nevada? Excuse me, WTF is a Nevada. Hey, man, you said, what'd you tell me, man?
I said, man, let's just start the show. It's dumb shit like this that makes me just want to hurry up and get into it, because to sit here and even think about her saying that, I've never seen somebody want attention so bad. Because after she told us what was and what wasn't Atlanta, who else? I mean, I know your girl,
Glorilla?
What's her fucking name? Yeah, Glorilla is talking about how she likes to season and saute her food with fucking cum. I mean, I thought that was attention seeking too, but then again, you know what? There's some nasty ass people out here, you know? So that at least has some potential merit. It's like, I don't know who would be thinking about that, but at least in a situation like that, that's actually, okay, I can see somebody doing that. As nasty as it fucking is, I can see that. And then people are like, well, what's the difference? Even if you're swallowing it, it's just like, because I don't know, that's like a fetish. That sounds weird, but.
Bro, it's just like, I like ice cream and I like salsa. I don't want salsa on my ice cream.
Right.
Hey, but I know one person who I think is into clout and being seen and being heard on Twitter more than Miss Amaretta. And that's Skip Bayless. But before we talk about Skip Bayless and the tweet heard around the world, let's take a second to talk about Damar Hamlin and the tragedy that we saw on the football field on Monday night. It's probably one of the craziest, wildest things I've ever seen in my life on a football field. I mean, something that appeared to be such a routine hit, and then the man goes into cardiac arrest. And thankfully, we have updates today that his eyes are open. He's writing letters. He's aware. He's alert. He's progressing. Because, bro, I was at like a loss for words when it happened. And as the week has progressed and I've listened to more people talk and I've sat with it more, I titled this podcast, Love Your Life Like Your Sports. At the end of the day, it's still a game. And I took this from Colin Cowherd because he talked about it. He said, love your life like your sports. Because, hey, man, people fall in love with their team and their sports so much that they forget that these are human beings. They like LeBron says, more than an athlete. They get so caught up in what happens on the field that, hey, man, he's got kids. He has a wife at home. He has a mother that's watching. His sister's on Twitter. They see these things. And even if your heart's in the right place, at some point it's like, why are you speaking and what are you adding? Oh, you're just giving your opinion. You're not adding anything. This is one of those times where people should just shut up, sit back. And if you want to have the conversations that could be taken out of context, that's what your group text for. That's what hanging out with the friends are for. That's what the barbershop is for. So you can have a conversation, which it's a legitimate conversation to be had most of the time, but it's not appropriate for those who are deeply and truly affected as human beings by such a tragic event.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. It was unfortunate, of course, what happened. It was somewhat of a freak, accident that happens on the field. And, kind of to even piggyback off of, because I know that we've heard so much about this all throughout the week, ever since the game. And, but to kind of piggyback off of like what a lot of people were saying on TV, everybody was just kind of waiting for that moment for him to, give the thumbs up as they take him out on the stretcher, like, oh, okay, he's okay. But in this situation, and I guess, let's give the 4-letter network some credit. They were very good about the privacy of it. If I can recall, they really only showed the replay like once. And I think that's because I think it caught everybody off guard. Because at first you just thought he was down. But then they did show the replay, and then you do see him just kind of fall and hit his head, and you're like, oh shit, something was wrong. Right. And the first thing that most people would think would be what it was, essentially. Was that Carr, like, did I just see him have a heart attack, like in the middle of the field? And so I guess give them credit for being able to handle that moment so unexpectedly so well. And then, of course, the people that really deserve the credit here are the paramedics and the team doctors and everybody that was basically there to resuscitate him immediately, to give him the help and the attention that he needed on the field. Because without it, who's to say that we're here, speaking about that? That he's able to talk to his family, not talk to his family, but open his eyes, write out a message. They said, I think they had said that he could grip hands or something, is what I read too. So a lot of positive signs from somebody that essentially died twice on the field.
Yeah, man. And as tragic and sad as it is, and I forgot who I heard say this first, but one of the silver linings is the football field, although it was the place of the injury, was probably the best place that could have happened, because there is so much medical personnel there that could quickly evaluate the injury, and then begin to work on him, and then get him into that ambulance and get him out of there. Because if you're just in the mall, if you're on your normal job walking down the street, who's to say that there's a medical professionals, highly trained medical professionals, some of the best, right there, ready to take care of you at a moment's notice.
Absolutely. So it was fortunate that they were there. It was unfortunate, of course, what happened. Nobody saw it coming. We've never seen anything like it. In all my years of watching football, I've never seen anything like that. And I'm just glad, man, at least that things are progressing, and it appears, at least as of right now, that things are going to be okay ultimately. And we do have to take out the idea of, fuck your fantasy football league, fuck your team. Man, that was somebody's son out there. And the mom was obviously in the crowd, and to have to witness that and not know what's wrong with your child, I can only imagine how that feels. And I'm sure you too, with both of us being parents, and the idea of something like that happening, and it's nothing you can do about it. Because especially as fathers, I would like to think the one thing that we think, especially having daughters, is that we're protectors.
Yeah.
That if there's anything that you tell your daughter when she's older, even now, it's one thing I tell my daughter now, and when she gets older, is that if you ever have an issue, daddy's gonna handle it. I promise. You don't have. I'll always be there for you. But when you can't help, and you're in a situation like that, I can only imagine how they would feel. And then also T. Higgins as well, being somebody that we all know it wasn't his fault. At the end of the day, it was it was a freakish fucking thing that happened. Something that's never happened before. And I think a lot more people need to pray for him too, because he might be hard on himself about that going forward, and trying to not play his game the way that he would normally play it, even though we know it's not his fault. He's going to feel like it is, because he's the one that was a part of the incident that led up to that.
Exactly, man. I'm happy you brought up the T. Higgins piece, because I was going to bring that next. You remember the Manti Te'o doc that came out on Netflix? And he talked about, after the whole situation got exposed, he just lost his edge, because he started thinking and not just reacting and just playing the game, because of the anxiety that built up from that. That I just pray that T. Higgins does not start to second guess himself as a football player, because he couldn't control what happened. We still don't know the why of what happened. And it's just an unfortunate event. And I just hope he finds the strength. I hope that he's prayed up with, he's supported by his loved ones, supported by his family, both guys, and even the players on the field, the fans in the stadium. It's the back what Boys in the Hood. You want to see a dead body, right? No, I don't, because you can't ever unsee that. And thank God he's living, he's progressing, And from AC Lee and Parlay Pete, man, prayers, thoughts, and prayers to all involved. Like, I don't know what else to say other than, hey, we got y'all's back because we're about to lay into some of these people who didn't take you all seriously and take what happened seriously enough.
Yeah, people that were thinking more about whether that be ratings, shock value, um, what it is that they want to see.
Hey,
It just disgusting, man. Like,
you're a football player. You're not a man. So let's get on to Skip Bayless. Okay, I'm gonna read all of his tweets from the night because I think it's very important to contextualize the one big viral tweet. And I also just want to throw it out here. He's been tweeting more in the last few days than before. So he's not going to delete his tweet, but he's bearing it on his timeline. So first tweet, not exactly sure what happened to Damar Hamlin. Players on both teams are shaken. Ambulance out on the field. CPR administered. Can't remember play being stopped for this length of time. Just said a prayer for him and his family. Thanks, Skip. But to most of the people who tweet stuff like this, I, I don't need your narration. It's on TV and I'm watching it. It's Monday Night Football, one of the highest rated shows on TV. But hey,
and arguably leading up to this point, the biggest game of the year.
yeah, but maybe he's a journalist. He's an opinion guy. So hey, he's a sports guy putting out information to sports fans. So hey, it's a 50-50 thing, right? Next tweet. I've seen so many horrific injuries suffered on football fields, yet never have I seen a reaction like this. In every other situation I witnessed or covered, the game always went on fairly quickly. The attitude was, hey, that's football. For these players, this was different. All caps. Next tweet. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. And that's the big tweet over, 166 million engagements. The one before that, 11 million. The one before that, 9 million. And then lastly, nothing is more important than that young man's health. That was the point of my last tweet. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood, but his health is all that matters. Again, everything else is irrelevant. I prayed for him and will continue to. So, hey, Parlay Pete, before I pass it off to you, uh, you know, it's important. Your reputation says everything about you. Your reputation is so important to you. Because when I first read the tweet, I'm like, yo, Skip, you tripping, dog. Then I go back and I contextualize it. I read the tweets before, and then I pay attention to the punctuation. I go, oh, he was saying that these are the thoughts of what's going on in the NFL league office. And I truly believe those were thoughts, those were conversations in the league office. But they never left the league office. They didn't make it to Twitter from the league, right? And he's saying all of these things that seemed so important 15 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, this morning, don't even matter because this is what's happening on the field. But because you've made your career off of bashing athletes, uh, not thinking of them as human beings, calling them, Bosch Spice, Prince James, I can't even think, TO Team Obliterator, like all this stuff. Once you open up the door for criticism that goes beyond just your sports takes, when it rains, it pours because your reputation says you don't care about these players. You just want them to go out there and play ball, and you want to talk about them playing ball, and you want to call them names and say, well, you should be over that. You should be above this. Katie, you shouldn't have burner accounts. LeBron, you shouldn't be responding like this in the media. You're LeBron James. You're above that. And they try to tell you, hey, man, we're still human beings. We're not these gods that you may think we are just to be worshiped. We are people. We have hearts. We have souls, and we have feelings. And I just think that Skip was just heartless. I won't say heartless. I think he was just
ignorant. Would you even say?
He should have put it to. He should have texted to his group text, or he should have hit up Shannon and said, "Hey man, here's what I'm thinking as a player. how does this sound, but he just put it out there and left it open for interpretation. And at the end of the day, you deflected. I mean, you were number one thing trended on Twitter. Like, you deflected from what was important to yourself. And now that wasn't the time, man. And I agree with what he said in the tweet, by the way. Like, I agree with what he said. I just don't think he should have tweeted it. I want to be clear on that.
Because it was just so irrelevant. Like, even though, yes, that was a question. And as soon as they were going to postpone the game, the league already had began laying out the options of what are we going to do about this? Like, they were already doing that because it is a business. And ultimately, not to take away from it, but the show must go on in a sense of they weren't going to cancel these games this week. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. And obviously, knock on wood, and of course, as of right now, that doesn't appear to be the case. But if he were to have died, they most definitely would have canceled the games this weekend. I believe that the NFL would have canceled the games, even if it just meant them pushing everything back that week. They would have canceled the games this weekend if something like that had happened. And of course, it was so fresh and so unexpected and just not something that we've ever seen before, to the point at where, especially his obligation as a media member, considering there are people that listen to him because, he's one of the options that you can listen to, and with him being arguably certainly top 3 in his field in regards to the celebrity aspect of commentary and analysis, hot takes. Right. I mean, literally. Right. It's just it's unfortunate that he didn't get the memo, I guess, to think before he tweeted. You know what I mean? Because obviously we all know the saying, say what you mean what you say. I think he absolutely meant what he said. I don't think he meant it to have any harm, but at the end of the day, it's a tweet. It can be interpreted so many different ways by so many different people, regardless of if we all know like what you might have been trying to say. It just wasn't the time and the place for it. It just wasn't. And it's the same. I'm not going to compare it to this, but even like when Kanye had said slavery is a choice, I understood exactly what he was saying too. And a lot of people were up in arms. But at the end of the day, on his end, was that really some shit that you needed to, like, it wasn't even some shit you needed to put out? Like, what was the point of that? Like, that's going to ruffle feathers. Like, and I know that before he tweeted that, maybe he just didn't think, but there's no way that he didn't think that people would be like, bro, is that really what you're thinking about right now? I know that he had to have had that thought before he pressed send.
And the crazy thing about it now, I do want to push back on the thought police who say, how are you even thinking about that right now? I mean, maybe I'm insensitive, but that was one of my first thoughts. I hope this guy's okay. That's thought number one. But I'm like, bro, these teams are playing for possibly the number 1 seed, which matters. What is the league going to do? I mean, let's be real. The league has showed us how little they care about their players, okay? They've shown us how much they only care about their bottom line. So I'm not going to act like the owner of another team is hardly interested in, like, the show must go on. More, and some are probably more worried about the injury because of the bad PR that can come with it, as opposed to someone's life. Like,
not to cut you off, but which ultimately hurts your bottom line.
Exactly. So again, these are conversations that we had in our group text the night that this happened. These were active conversations. And I think it was okay to have it a private conversation. Like, everything's not meant for the public. So that's just where it gets dicey. But for the thought police, hey man, y'all stop. Like, everybody's wired differently. Some people think differently. And hey, my new podcast is going to be called 2 Things Can Be True. And part of that is 2 things can be true. You could be thinking about the big picture implications in the short term for the league, and also be thinking about the big picture implications for this individual and what they're going through. Not everybody just thinks one thing at one time and just focuses on it. Some of our brains move 1,000 miles a second, and you have multiple thoughts going on simultaneously or so close together that it feels simultaneous. So, to the thought police, shut up. Now, question for you. those who are calling for Skip's job, what you got there for them? Is this a fireable offense?
No. And I'll say this is why it wasn't. As insensitive and as ill-timed as it was for him to say that, it was a legitimate question. And then at the end of the day, he even put the disclaimer at the end of it, right? It's a tweet. And that's another thing that we got to look at too. This is just another way of people voicing and saying what it is that they want to say that didn't even exist 15 years ago. If he thought it, should he got fired about it? You know what I mean? Should he have been fired if he thought it? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there are people that are getting away with calling niggas, and they're not
calling niggers.
Yeah, they're not getting fired. Yeah, Robert Sarver was forced to sell his share in the Suns, but he openly fucking had dialogue with people like saying, "Why can't I say nigga?" He's like, I don't get it. Why can't I do it? And was he calling niggas? No. But he was also questioning why he can't say it. And it's just like, once again, that's something irrelevant to even talk about. But
he made more billions. He's gonna make like $4 billion off of $100 million investment. Who lost?
Right. And so no, I didn't think that he should have got fired. Now maybe Fox should have came out and done like many people do whenever something is said that the network doesn't agree with. And maybe they did. I never checked on Fox or Fox Sports to see if they tweeted, "We do not condone or approve of what Skip Bayless had to say. We are handling this internally," or something. Like, I don't know if that happened or not. You could tell. I don't know if you know either, but
here's what I know. I know that Cowherd took a couple shots. Again, love your life like your sports. Okay. He talked about, I didn't get on social media last night. I didn't tweet anything. I didn't have anything to say. Like, what am I adding to the conversation? I bet Shannon didn't get fined for not coming to work on Tuesday. And they, instead of them bringing somebody else to fill in, Skip had to do that whole show by himself. And he had to take tweets. And I don't think Shannon got fined 1 red cent for that, because you're a player. Skip done violated you recently. I don't think that went over well. And then I don't know if you watched any of Undisputed on Wednesday or consumed any of it, but there was obvious tension. I mean, Shannon couldn't get through his opening monologue without Skip cut. Man, I can play it for you real quick.
Yeah, give me a little taste and pause.
Pause.
And yeah, but yeah, no, I didn't. But here's the thing: Fox loved it too. That he left. You know why? Because they already had got ratings because everybody wanted to see what Skip was going to say. And then the fact that Shannon didn't show up made it to where the next show was going to be even bigger. So it worked out for Fox. So they loved. So no, they didn't fine him because they're like, oh man, we were already going to get the ratings because of what this buffoon had to fucking say. And they're like, and then you're going to bring us even more ratings because you're going to have to come back and it is going to have to still be faced.
So hey, here we go.
Into Undisputed here on FS1. I'm Jen Hale. That is Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Guys, good to see you. Shannon, I understand there's something you want to share this morning.
Good morning, yes.
Good morning.
There's been a lot of speculation of why I wasn't on air yesterday, and I won't get into speculation or conjecture or innuendo, but I will say this. In watching that game on Monday night, what happened to Damar Hamlin struck me a little different. As a brotherhood in the NFL, when injuries happen, when we know injuries are a part of the game, I've seen guys suffer ACLs and Achilles tear, but I've never seen anybody have to be revived and fight for their life on the field. So it struck me a little differently because I remember seeing my brother paralyzed on the field temporarily, and he was able to regain focus. Skip tweeted something, and although I disagree with the tweet, and hopefully Skip would take it down, but I didn't want it.
Well, time out. I'm not going to take it down because I stand by what I tweeted.
Skip, let me finish.
All right. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Go ahead. Let's go, Jen.
Okay.
I mean, I cannot even get through a monologue without you interrupting me.
Well,
you could have came back, Skip.
Well, I thought
Skip, just let.
I didn't know you were going to bring up.
No,
this.
I was just going to say, Skip. I didn't want to yesterday to get into a situation where Damar Hamlin was the issue. We should have been talking about him and not get into your tweet. That's what I was going to do. But you can't even let me finish my opening monologue without you interrupting.
Okay. I was under the impression you weren't going to bring this up because nobody here had a problem with that tweet.
No. Clearly, the bosses wanted you to offer explanation. So clearly, somebody.
No, they did not have. Nobody.
Let's go, Jen.
Thoughts and prayers remain with Damar Hamlin.
That was the open.
Wow.
When he dropped that pen.
Well, and then he said, go ahead, Jen.
And she's sitting there like, what do I do? Because here's the thing about the Skip and Shannon dynamics. When Skip steps out of line and, Shannon get mad, they can't move no furniture around.
Right.
But, yeah, man, you just got to – there's a time and place for everything. Like, you can have sex with whoever you want to in the privacy of your bedroom or a hotel room, but you can't go have sex in a park. I'm not saying you can't have sex.
Okay.
But the point being, some things are acceptable in certain places and some things are acceptable in other places. Like, some things are for private. Hey, there are hard conversations that are supposed to be had in private, whether it's a group text, whether it's amongst friends or whoever you're around. Private, no cameras, no nothing. A private conversation where some dirty things are said, some true opinions come out, and there's a lot of learning and growth. And some things you say in public. Like, hey, guys, as honest and raw as we try to be on this podcast, it's not 100%. We put on filters. Because we have interest outside of this fun podcast that we do that we have to protect. So, know the time and place, but Bart Scott, another hot take artist, had some stuff to say. And I can't wait.
Oh, I thought you were about to play it too. Basically, yeah, you got Bart Scott sitting up here trying to deflect from what everyone else, which I know it was repeated multiple times by everybody, prayers, hope he's okay. Everybody's rooting for the guy. But instead, he's got to break down the actual fucking play and say where the other party involved in the play is at fault. And it's just kind of like, bruh, like, really? That's what you want to talk about? Like, you really want to talk about this? Like you're a former player. You're on ESPN.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Yeah, get his ass off TV. It's just another, and his might have been a little bit worse because it's just like, why are you trying to explain something that was a freak accident and unexplainable to begin with? Because it's never like, are you serious? I mean, gosh, let's talk about fucking Jalen Rose stepping on Kobe's foot, right? What if Kobe never played ball again because he fucking just has the worst fucking ankle break of all time, right? In that play in the NBA Finals. And it's just like, yeah.
Here's the real one. Your man stepping on Kawhi's foot.
Zaza
stepping on Kawhi's foot, which had him out for what? Almost 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the rest of the playoffs and another full season.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he ever got back to himself. Yeah, he won the championship and he played some good ball for the Lakers, for the Clippers. But could we say that maybe his ACL came from overcompensation from that injury that didn't totally heal? Because Kawhi has shown that he's a slow healer.
Right.
And I mean, we've lost like 5 Kawhi years. That's why I'm like, Kawhi, do y'all put him in your top 5?
Because he's still 30 years old and still has 5 or 6 All-Star selections, 2 Defensive Player of the Year. Finals MVP. No, he's a one-time player.
Bad to the bad take artist.
Look, this is all I'm saying. At the end of the day, he's still an elite player in the league. And I mean, he's compensated as such, but there's a lot of guys that are compensated as such. So let me take the money out of it. But nonetheless, back to the point. Point being, in a situation like that, I don't understand why Bart Scott's even talking about T. Higgins. Like, what would be the point of bringing T. Higgins up? We all saw, anyone that was watching saw it. Some people saw it, that weren't watching it live got to see it. Nobody was thinking to themselves, man, T. Higgins could have avoided this. Nobody's fucking thinking about that because it looked like a normal fucking play to me, right?
Normal. And I think I know what his point was.
Nobody, even before he collapsed, there was nobody that saw it and was like, where's the fucking flag, ref? Like, nobody, bro, nobody. But Bart got to analyze it and was like, that motherfucker, man, he did not protect him on that play. He was in real because it wasn't, it's like he was really going to get that extra inch a yard if he didn't do it. Like, he wasn't going to get it, even though he already had a first down. So he was definitely thinking about that. Just, man, let me give him a little tug so he don't tackle me next time. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like,
come on, man. This ain't Deshaun Watson. He's not getting inspired off of a tug. Dang, I forgot what I was gonna say. So here's where I think Bart Scott was trying to go. Again, wrong time and wrong place. Offensive players do lead with their head, and they're hardly penalized for it. Whereas if a defensive player initiates contact with his head to head, he does get penalized for it, So maybe Bart was trying to properly attack that angle, but not now. Let's wait. Let's build a compilation, leave this hit out, of plays where offensive players led with their head, or maybe we can use this play once we know that he's healed, he's good, and we can have a conversation and go, hey, man, offensive players use their helmets as a weapon too, and we need to officiate this as well if we're talking about player safety. And speaking of player safety, miss me with player safety, NFL. Like, this right here is a reason why I don't believe the player safety nonsense, and they just want to make sure that the soccer moms put their kids in football and not in soccer. Yeah, we added an extra game. We don't need this extra game. We added another playoff team. That's another playoff game. That's money. We got it. Hey, college football is going to a 12-team playoff instead of a 4, which used to be a 2. And in all of these years, we've never got the national champion wrong, but we still got to add more games.
Yeah, we have gotten the national champion wrong.
Which year?
Because the best team doesn't always win, goddamn. That's why we need more games.
Well, that's why we need Josh Hosey on here. We need Josh Hosey to tell us how, a team can beat another team, but the team who lost is the better team.
Exactly.
So, lastly, I think Dominique Foxworth had an interesting take on it. He used to be executive VP of the Players Union, or something high-ranking guy in the Players Union. He's very passionate about the Players Union. He's not the biggest fan of the owners because he's actually gone head-to-head with the owners. But he's also been the voice of the players and understand that the players are not as invested in their futures and what the NFL can provide to them outside of a paycheck like they should be. What you got?
No, I was going to say, I think he was president, and I think that the time period that he was president was when they had that
lockout.
Yeah, it was like 2011, 2012, I think. Yes. It was about 10 years ago, yeah.
And the piece he talked about with that was the owners created the narrative that the players were selfish. And he said, we got locked out. We didn't strike. Like, we couldn't come in the building because of you all, not because of us. We didn't strike. And that narrative affected players. And they're like, hey, man, I don't want to be seen as selfish. I ain't this, I'm that. Okay, so you're not selfish. You're just a willing participant of something I should not say. Okay. But he talked about the union. He goes, hey, man, this is why we shouldn't have a salary cap, because the risk in football can ultimately end in death. You can not ever play again. You can have injuries that are going to last you for the rest of your life. I mean, Shannon Sharp, who we just listened to, he's had 2 hip replacements, Fortunate for him. And his brother lost his career. Should be in the Hall of
Fame.
Fame.
Hell of a start too. When you go back and look at his stats, Sterling Sharp was a dog. Like 19 touchdowns one year, like 1,600 yards type shit.
The Kelce's might go.
Packers team at that.
The Kelce brothers may go down as the best brothers to play in the league because they got the years for it, but those Sharp boys, so he said there shouldn't be a salary cap because of the ultimate reward. And I listened to him. I go, I agree that there should not be a salary cap, but this is America and it's capitalism for the people at the bottom and it's socialism for people at the top. Okay. They put caps on stuff all the time so that they can keep their money up there. And I go, well, people in the military are putting their life on the line. Police officers are putting their life on the line. Firefighters are putting their life on the line. Any of your emergency medical, your EMTs, depending on the situation, are putting their lives on the line. If you're working on an oil rig, if you're working in a diamond mine, there are a lot of jobs, where people are putting their life on the line. And some of these industries generate same levels of income, they're not as popular. So why does this particular one not get capped off? Maybe it's the one that's close to your heart because you participated in it. And I don't think there should be a salary cap, and he talked about the draft being illegal and immoral. You know what? I'm okay with it not being a draft. Hey, players go to the highest bidder. Who's going to pay for this guy? And
not even know if he'll pan out.
Exactly. So I'm with getting rid of the salary cap, but I'm with getting rid of the draft. But I do think sometimes entertainers, athletes, they sit here and want to preach on their high horse about the risk that they're taking. For one, you signed up for it. You signed up for this. Okay. I'm sure I am more talented at some things that I'm doing other than what I get paid to do. But I chose to do what I'm doing and get paid for it. So it is what it is. But a football player can get hurt, can die on the football field. But there are other people who are going to work knowing they may die. When a SWAT team kicks in the door, they don't know what's on the other side of that door. When that cop gets called to a shootout, they don't know that it's a shootout. When that cop pulls that guy over who is out on bond and got a brick in the car, who say, I ain't going back. You don't know that. Or that guy who's on the front lines fighting for freedoms in his country that he may not even know about. He just loves America. So he's out here fighting this war for America. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz is raking in money all over the place. Okay, let me not go there. But the point being is there are other people who are in high risk careers, and the young people in the military are cops, especially like a low level beat cop. I think people getting paid like $30,000, $45,000.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that when it comes to patriotic stuff, a lot of people don't want to look at it. But in a sense, let's look at 9/11 even. The men and women that were police officers and firefighters on that day, not knowing, none of us, because you want to talk about another situation where something was unprecedented that we'd never really seen. I guess Pearl Harbor would be the closest thing to that this nation's seen. But even Pearl Harbor was so different because it was so far away. And then it was, ships as opposed to,
niggas at work.
Yeah, at work, and then people who lived like on that block potentially. Like, you know what I mean? We're talking New York City, largest city in the country, and we've got that going on. They went in and they didn't know, and they put their lives on the line. And I'm sure that there's been a fund that was set up for 9/11. Like, I know Pete Davidson's dad died. Apparently, he was like a firefighter. Like, in that, he died on that day. Like,
Jon Stewart's like lobbied Congress asking for more money for the survivors because these people are living with lifelong conditions, and y'all swear y'all care about it, but y'all are not funding getting these people the proper medical treatment that they need.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, you are more than an athlete, and we agree that you're getting taken advantage of. But sometimes, we as people, and it goes back to the Skip tweet. It goes back to the Bart comments. It goes back to stuff that we've said before. Sometimes we got to take a step back and say, hey, this may be a big thing in my world, but where does this fall in the world,
Absolutely.
Oh, it's people trying to escape their home country to come to America just to look over their shoulder for the next 20 years because they ain't got citizenship. But that's a safer life than being back where they came from.
Yeah.
So
it's a crazy, messed up world.
It is, but all right, let's pivot a little bit. Let's bring it back to sports. So one thing that I hate.
What does your sweatshirt say, by the way?
I don't remember.
Dog bar? Dog eat?
I think so.
You didn't even catch what I said, did you?
Dog bar? Dog eat?
Well, but as we are getting ready to segue into something else, I said it's a crazy, messed up world. It's a Snoop Dogg line. And it's a dog-eat-dog world. Hey.
So yeah, man. Take integrity. I hate take integrity. I think Nick Wright has made that term like popular, but we have these analysts who talk about sports. I shouldn't say analysts. I should say talking heads. And they said, I said this was going to happen at the beginning of the year, and I'm sticking to it. Hey, bro, they 2-9. You're wrong. Accept that you're wrong. Pivot and make a new take. Again, let me quote Colin Cowherd again. He I don't stick to my takes because if I'm on a plane and the pilot sees that there's a storm ahead and he can go an alternate route to avoid the storm, I want him to do that. If I'm getting surgery and the doctor says, hey, we got this new procedure that we can do that's going to be better, less invasive, and we can do it. Would you rather do that? Yes. So why in the world in sports do we have to stick to the first thing we said when we have more knowledge? We have new knowledge, better information. So I just hate take integrity, dog. I'm sorry. I just had to put this in here because I had on the list last week and I didn't talk about it.
Well, it's take integrity, and then it's, obviously people wanting to say that, well, I never changed up. Right? Because, think about it. Isn't that a thing? I never changed up.
Yeah. Let's talk about the guys in our group text who love to bring up receipts. Hey, man, things change.
Well, things change, and then why are we always only looking at the negative? Why don't we look at the positive of stuff, of things that we were right about, too?
Same reason why Adam Silver talked about NBA players having terrible mental health and being depressed because of what they see on social media, instead of seeing their jersey sales and their bank accounts, because somebody enjoys what they do.
It's
we focus on the negative and not the positive, but Josh Holsey is 100% on all of his takes. So.
Oh, yeah, that's a guy, if there's ever been a guy that could bat 1,000, it was him.
Al, this is a guy who has a better winning percentage than Tom Brady.
I mean, look at those hips and the way that he goes through that hole. He's like a defensive lineman at quarterback, Josh Allen. That's some shit he'd be saying, though.
We are all here to do what Falcons do. Look at that.
Dez rose to the occasion.
Did he?
I gave him an F week 1. And he came back at me and said, F you.
Did you watch the game in full?
Kind of in and out.
Okay. Because obviously, fellow season ticket holder here, you know that we didn't even end up going to the game?
I knew y'all weren't going to the game.
No, we were right down the street. We had one Mr. Julian Turner here. And we had talked about just going to our seats at least because, we got the free food down there just to go get something to eat. We didn't even do that. We were just like, fuck it. And disclaimer for people, I live 5 minutes away walking distance from the fucking stadium. And That's how bad of a product this game was. Well, and it ended up, I guess, being a good game.
It was a competitive game. It was a competitive game.
Okay, right. Let me not say it was a good game. It was competitive, and it came down to the end.
Yeah.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I kind of watched it, but here's what I'll say Desmond Ridder did. He led us on a game-winning drive. Tyler Algier, I like him as a number 2 back.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we don't draft Bijan Robinson.
Okay.
I saw that on a mock. I just don't want if we're picking at 5 or 6, don't take a running back, man. There's too many. There's too many.
Unless we're gonna run the ball every fucking play. I mean, would you be upset about that?
I think we have some more holes like our defense that really needs to get patched up where we can trade back.
You're gonna have. I think that they are projecting us because there's gonna be a couple guys like Marcus Mariota, for instance. His number, we're gonna save and cap like even on his number. Like I think that they're projecting the Falcons to have. We're gonna have the most in the NFL, but it's gonna be like $115 million in cap.
Can we talk about Marcus Mariota real quick while we're here talking Falcons first?
Sure. Well, I mean, we started to talk. How can you talk about Marcus Mariota and how can you talk about Desmond Ridder and not talk about Marcus Mariota?
Hey, Marcus. Fuck you, man. Like, that's just not cool. Like, leaving the team, you know?
Apparently, we don't know the full story either. Apparently. Because some people are like, that is just so not Marcus Mariota in every stop that he's had. And he already, had to lick his wounds and be a backup in Oakland/Las Vegas to a guy that's not even going to be the quarterback there going forward. And then he got benched by another guy who's about to be a backup as well. So he's kind of licked his wounds from that standpoint. And he knew that he couldn't get it done here. He just had a baby. Apparently his knee had been bothering him, even though he was never on the injury report. Let's give Marcus a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, huh?
No, because part of being the veteran bridge quarterback is you go out there and you prove yourself. And if you play well, you play. But once the play falls off and they drafted a rookie, he's getting some reps. We got to see what this guy looks like because we're going from possibly winning the division to picking in the top 10. And we need to figure out if this guy is good enough to try to run it back or if we want to go with Will Levis.
We are not fucking drafting Will Levis.
Bryce Young or Will Levis?
Bryce Young.
Okay.
I'd rather go with what I've seen and know as opposed to what could be.
That's what she said.
Now, Josh Allen, of course, is the perfect example of like that. But see, here and even in that draft, the what I do know aspect was Lamar was kind of the what I do know. And obviously he went last in the first round. Baker but see, even the thing with Baker, and Baker's carving out, Baker might be the highest paid backup in the NFL next season.
Ooh, Chase Daniel.
He might be the highest paid backup in the NFL. And I think the Rams will be the ones that fork over the money, even though I don't know how they keep coming up with the money.
I'm going to trade Jalen Ramsey.
Who wants him?
I'll take him. He's still good, bro.
What would you give for him? Next year's first?
Yeah. Can we give you
probably like $20 million? What's he probably makes $20 million?
Yeah. Can we give you somebody bad on our team and you got to pay some of his
contract? Sure. I mean, sure.
If we're good, I wouldn't mind having them because I think defensive players, when they're going into a game knowing that they can't win, no matter what they do, there's a different level of effort you put into it because you watch these guys practice all week.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen Matthew Stafford without Cooper Kupp, and it's like, bro, it's a done data.
Right.
So, anyways, but I just think what Marcus Mariota did was just unbecoming. You're a guy who knows Arthur Smith. You've been in the system, and
He's
once
you got a second chance. Actually, Matt Ryan's the reason you got a second chance.
True, but when we draft Desmond Ridder, you have to know what time it is. You've seen your career. You have to believe that you're a bridge / backup quarterback And as long as you're playing well, you're going to have opportunities. But once that turned off, you know, they got to put the rookie in, and you should be there to support the rookie, help him out, tell him what you're seeing. Look, Felipe Franks has only played in the preseason. There's only so much that he can do from the tight end room to help this young quarterback out.
And that was another part. That was probably the most disappointing part of what he did. It's just the idea that he left them high and dry. It was very Bobby Petrino-ish. He left them high and dry. The season's not over. We still could have made the playoffs. Desmond Ridder could have been fucking buns in the first half. It was so bad. He could have had a Nathan Peterman moment. And Art would have been like, Marcus, get your ass in there, man. And let's go win this football game. You come out, you win the football game. We're still in it. You start the next week.
And he's not a free agent.
Desmond Ridder could have got hurt.
He's not a free agent. Like he's coming back. Well, we're cutting him.
Oh, he's gone. Yeah, they're gonna cut
But I'm saying, like it's not like he was a free agent, okay, dude. Like it's not like you're gone anyways, you know. It's not like the Derek Carr situation where they said, hey, Derek Carr leave because reports came out this week. I saw it today about Derek Carr is they're gonna look to trade him. If they can't trade him, they're cutting him.
They won't be able to trade him.
No one's gonna trade for that. They're gonna talk to his agent. Hey, here's what we're gonna offer. Here's where we are. We're not trading for him. So go ahead and use that no trade clause, which he may be the worst player to ever get a no trade clause in sports history, or at least deserving player of a no trade clause. But use your no trade clause. Here's the contract. Here's what we're doing for you.
You might use it anyways just to stick it to the Raiders for like doing this shit. Like,
I mean, yeah, he cried over this.
And let me tell you, I know what Tay Adams has said recently, but
he recanted.
But we all knew that was kind of the reason he was there. I mean, there were probably a bunch of other reasons too, just because, I mean, West Coast guy. I mean, but certainly Derek Carr had a big influence on him coming there. And I'm not saying, because look, Derek is not Tay and Tay is not Derek. So it ain't like he just controls this man's life, but he might tell him, man, fuck the Raiders, man. Tell them you want back in Green Bay.
So I listened to Tay's comments today, and Tay said that he wanted to be a Raider before Derek was a Raider. Because, you know, he's from East Palo Alto, so close to Oakland. So he came back and said, obviously, Derek was a big reason why he came. He wanted to play with his guy. He didn't say, I will be here next year, but he said, you know, like, I plan on being here next year. So
once he finds out who the quarterback's going to be, if it's Tom Brady, sure, he'll be there.
What if it's James Garoppolo?
Probably not.
James doesn't like to throw the ball outside the hashes.
He will ask to go back to Green Bay, or he'll say, send me somewhere the fuck else. Like, it'll be a fluid situation. We'll get to see. But, like, I mean, shit. The way that this shit works now in the NFL, motherfuckers are requesting trades left and right. They're getting exactly what they want, especially when you're the top dude. And he is, you know, maybe Justin Jefferson can maybe tell him otherwise. But aside from him, he's still the best receiver in the NFL. I mean, it's him or Justin Jefferson. Those are the top two guys.
You think Jair did in camp to Devontae what he just did to Jay Jettis? 1 for 15.
Hold on, man. But Jefferson had a big game on him in week 1, and then he tried to chalk that shit up to like something else. That has like, well, I didn't guard him the whole game. It's just like, but this nigga still torched y'all's defense. Like,
said it was a fluke.
Man, look, that boy this week could potentially get to 2,000 yards.
Yeah, but if he had a better quarterback,
250 yards, we can do it if they wanted to. They're still fighting for the 2 seed because right now I think San Francisco is the 2.
Good,
that's a big deal. That's a big deal for Minnesota to have to go to San Francisco as opposed to San Francisco have to go to Minnesota. At least from the Vikings standpoint.
Who says Minnesota wins round 1?
Oh, I'm not, but I'm just simply saying it still is a possibility. Minnesota would get like the Giants, and we saw them beat them already. I think they would beat the Giants. But,
I'm going to bet the Giants.
I might take the points if it's something over 4.5, I'll probably take the points. But if it's like 2.5 Minnesota, give me Minnesota on the spread.
All right, so
Kirk Cousins has won a playoff game. People forget that. He went to New Orleans and won a playoff game.
And Kirk Herbstreit called 3 games in 4 days. We're gonna get to that,
man.
Hey, we're gonna get to the college football stuff, but boy, the way ESPN works their employees is Jesus, the offense. So Hall of Fame, huh?
What's your issue with Kirk?
He should just stay in college, kind of like Saban. Hey, you're good here. You're good here.
Who, Kirk?
Yeah. I'd rather listen to Al and Chris than even listen to Grant, when Kirk and Al are on
when they flash to them in the booth, I think that you just hate looking at them.
Because Al doesn't want to talk to him.
Do you think breaking news, by the way, NFL announces that week 17 Bills-Bengals game will not be resumed and has been canceled. So, fresh talking point, since we're still on the NFL and then it's live right now. Your reaction to that? This is exactly what I thought was going to happen. I kind of said this in our group chat, that I said I think that they're just going to cancel the game and that it won't count, that it won't be a tie, and it just won't count. And it's unfortunate that it's going to fuck up because if the Chiefs win on Saturday, they get the one, even though if Buffalo had won that game and wins this week, they would have been the one. It's never happened. This has never happened. But I guess win percentage-wise, it's the same thing as a tie. So,
hey, at the end of the day, it's just still a game, man. And there's more important things, So I'm happy they just threw it out. The teams talked about it. They said they're okay with it, because at the end of the day, you want home field advantage, but when you're playing on that level, Joe Burrow just went on the road and got to the Super Bowl. And I don't think anybody is more confident in this league than Joe Burrow. So at the end, bro, I just want to play ball. Now the only thing is
Burrow, huh?
Baltimore can still win the division.
There'll always be that what if, though, in a sense of if Buffalo were to have won these last 2 games and the road through the AFC and the bye had to go through Buffalo, the thought would be, but who knows? Buffalo, if anything, will be galvanized, especially by their teammate, assuming that he continues the recovery that he's on. They're going to be galvanized by this, and they're going to fight to win it for him, to get that man a championship ring. Because this is the other part. Not that it matters what part, because this could have happened on a special teams play and it been a guy that we never, which a lot of us had never heard of him in any. He is actually leading the team in tackles.
Yeah, he was having a great season, ready to get a bag.
Yeah, as a 6th-round guy, man, he was having a hell of a year in year 2. Hell of a year. They're going to be galvanized to win that ring for him, and they're going to. And we saw if 14 seconds weren't left on the clock, or if they didn't fucking do that dumbass touchback kick into the end zone, they just kicked it high and made Kansas City have to, I don't know, take off 5 or 6 seconds by returning the fucking punt or a kick return. Who knows? They would have beat Kansas City anyways last year if they didn't give Tyreek Hill, Kelsey 14 seconds and a timeout to work with.
Crazy. I think that this narrative is gonna loom over the playoffs.
It's gonna be a what if, man.
Yeah, it's gonna loom, and the talking heads are gonna wear it out, and then they're gonna be like, "Well, if this didn't happen, then who know?" Like, yeah, man, it's a what if. But back to Skip's tweet, man. What are you adding to it? What can we benefit from your what ifs? Probably nothing. So just shove it. Shove it in your group text, because I want to have the what if conversation in our group text as things are happening, but I don't want to do the what if conversation on the podcast because I still think it's super insensitive to what people are going through. Like it's a legit what if. It's definitely a conversation. But good on the NFL. Hey, shout out to the NFL for getting its PR thing figured out. Finally, they got some women in the room. I truly believe this. They got some women in the room, so when they go, hey, who cares? We're still going to make money. We're still going to come. Yeah, but I wouldn't want my son to be around this culture, you know? I feel like there's more women in the room who have legitimate sway who are helping drive some of these conversations in a more positive direction.
Do you think Jay-Z might have possibly been a part of this? Or is he literally just an ox? Hove did.
I'm pretty sure he called the shot. This got Hove's name written all over it, don't
it? I don't know. I mean, what is he? What is his official title? Is it like the diversity and inclusion or something? Like, what is his actual title with the NFL?
DJ.
Well, not in the words of Mr.
What was it? Nigga with ox.
Yeah.
What is Jay-Z's official title? Jay-Z.
I feel like it's diversity and inclusion.
NFL title.
It's a partnership with Rock Nation, which I don't even know how that actually works, considering they have a sports agency that definitely has players on it.
Collusion.
How does that work?
Collusion.
How does that work for real?
Collusion.
Or let me guess, does Jay-Z not really have his hands on Rock Nation?
Well, no,
that'd be like Donald Trump. That'd be like Donald Trump not calling shots for the Trump Hotel, even though he's in the White House.
Collusion.
Like, what the fuck? Like,
I'm telling you, dog, it's collusion. You want to talk Hall of Fame now?
Yeah, let's get into the Hall of Fame.
All right, so the 15 finalists for the Hall of Fame have been announced. And if I can find my notes, we'll have them. All right, so we have Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, Andre Johnson, Joe Thomas, Willie Anderson, Jared Allen, Patrick Willis, DeMarcus Ware, Zach Thomas, Dwight Freeney, Albert Lewis, Darren Woodson, Rondé Barber, and Darrelle Revis. Now, without even the statistical profile of these guys, okay, I want you to give me your 5, because that's all it gets in, based on how you remember them, their impact to you in your eye test, or excuse me, the Josh Hovey test.
Okay. So I'm gonna give a disclaimer on this there, because I'm pulling up the list, because I know you sent it to me yesterday, so I can look at it. There will be a little bit of a biasness, only because I know some of the names on the list have been on the list, and I'm not going to use their criteria in order to determine that. But at the same time, it also does tell me a little bit more about what I do remember, even with some of them, because, a lot of these guys, like your Torrey Holt's and Zach Thomas's, both of them specifically, I remember Torrey Holt, of course, being on Greatest Show on Turf, so he was a part of a relatively prominent team. But Zach Thomas was on very bad Dolphins teams that, less than memorable, essentially. And so here we go. I got it pulled up. All right, so let me run through this one more time. Okay.
All right, so while you run through your list, I'm going to give you my list of who I think get in. All right.
Okay.
Because these are not necessarily the people who I think should get in. Okay. I want to put that disclaimer out there. No. I changed that. I made the list based on who I think should get in. I'm sorry. I did who I think should get in, not who I think will get in. These are my votes. Revis Island. You can't have Revis Island without Darrelle Revis. I go Devin Hester, best kick returner in the history of the game. Reggie Wayne, he played alongside another Hall of Famer, and both of them put up Hall of Fame numbers. Joe Thomas, arguably the best left tackle of his era. And then Dwight Freeney. And here's why I'm going to say Dwight Freeney, okay? Jared Allen has more sacks than Dwight Freeney. He also has, some not more knockdowns. He has a big Dan Orlovsky play. But when you think about the Colts and what they were building out there, you think about their production, you think about Dwight Freeney. And maybe the only other name that I would sub in for Dwight Freeney would be DeMarcus Ware, because he was a part of that Super Bowl Denver team. He was a stalwart in Dallas. And there's something about being a Dallas Cowboy. Check Troy Aikman's numbers. That sits well with the Hall of Fame. Now, I would love to put Andre Johnson in there. I would love to put Torrey Holt in there. But they're not going to put multiple receivers in at the same time. Just like I don't think they're going to put Rondé Barber and Darrelle Revis in there. But Darrelle Revis, I think he's a first balloter versus Rondé Barber being whatever ballot he's on at this point in his career. He might have to get in line, because a lot of time they make him wait in line. So Torrey may get in before Reggie just because of their spot in line. But to me, I got this from Shannon Sharp. I'm either Hall of Fame or I ain't. And then, Deion said, their gold jersey and their gold jacket ain't the same as my gold jacket. So when I think about the people who I think should be in, when you think about their era of football, their position, who put fear into you as a fan, who put fear into you as a coach that goes beyond the stat sheet?
But see, then at that point, I feel like Jared Allen would be one of those guys, because he was, for many years, even in Kansas City before he got to Minnesota, I mean, he was a sack artist there too. Based on what I'm looking at with this list, this is how I would view it. I think I'm with you for sure. I think Revis is probably the slam dunk of these guys that gets in, because he was the best corner of his generation. Same with Joe Thomas. I think that both of those guys are slam dunks to get in because of accolades alone. And what I know from what I've seen, what?
Does that have anything to do with it?
It's offensive line. And so, most of those guys are white, typically. And it's a mix. I mean, they're a black O-lineman, but for the most part, it's always the big white boys, right? And so those two, to me, are the slam dunks, and then the rest you talk about. Dwight Freeney, personally, is who I think gets in, because he was the best player on all those Colts defenses. Even though they weren't great defenses, it wasn't because he wasn't great. Plus, we got to obviously see him here in Atlanta, and I thought he contributed greatly to the Falcons. Not that nobody looks at that for the reason for him to get in, but he did. He was, the other defensive end on another Super Bowl team to end his career. Very good player his entire career. I'm going to disagree on Devin Hester getting in on his first chance, even though he's the greatest return man of all time. I think because there was a lack of anything, because Dante Hall isn't a guy that's in, and Dante Hall at one point had this. He wasn't Diaz, but like and remember, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is unlike the Basketball Hall of Fame, where they account for what you did in college. Which Devin Hester obviously was on those U teams in college.
Cornerback.
Yeah. And so I would say Revis, Joe Thomas, Freeney. If you want to keep it 100, he didn't play long enough, and it was kind of the same thing with Calvin Johnson. Patrick Willis. He's an all-pro like every year that he played. He only played 8 years, but my goodness, the guy was an all-pro. He was the best player on all those 49ers teams of that 2000s, from the moment he got drafted in 2006. I remember when he was at Ole Miss. He's like one of the first guys you can remember seeing that played with the club, and we was still racking up. Guy had 200 tackles like in a year, if I'm not mistaken. He's got absurd numbers. He retired early, but I think that he would fall under that same type of category as a Calvin Johnson in terms of his contributions while he was on the field. He was an impact player from day one until the last day. And
I definitely
you could say he was the best middle linebacker in the league his entire time in the league. So I think he gets in. And then this might be not as popular, and only because I didn't get to see him play, really. But there's a lot of stuff that you kind of know about him in a sense. Darren Woodson, you said something earlier about Cowboys bias. You could argue that Darren Woodson was the best safety in the NFL during his era of that 90s era. For one, he was a Cowboy. He's in their Ring of Honor. 2, he's a 4-time All-Pro. That's really hard to do. That means almost half the decade you were the best player at your position. Don't know why it's taken so long, but he would be probably the other person I say that gets in this time.
So I don't have a great memory of Darren Woodson. Like, I knew he was nice. Like, I know the name, but the memory of like watching the games themselves, So that's kind of
misconstrue him with Charles Woodson, anyways.
So that's why I left him. That's one of the reasons why I left him off my list. Now, what 5 do you think get in? Like, not if it's up to you. Who do you think actually get in?
Wayne, Thomas, Revis, Woodson, maybe Jared Allen.
No argument out of me. I'm interested to see who gets in, and honestly, there's no one on that list that I've watched that will upset me.
Jared Allen's another 4-team All-Pro, first team.
There's no one on that list. There's no one on that list who shocks me. Like, who gets in that I've watched play that would bother me. Now, Mike Shanahan, here's the snub of the coaches / contributors. Mike Shanahan not getting to the Hall of Fame is one of the biggest red marks, black eyes on the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. It is disgusting that Mike Shanahan, who won 2 Super Bowls as a head coach, won Super Bowls as a OC, whose legacy is running the league right now. It's nasty, man. It's nasty that he's not getting into the Hall of Fame this year. Like, how do you?
Is he not? He's on the list, I thought, for contributors.
He wasn't a finalist.
No way. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ. Like you said, he's offensive coordinator for those 49er teams. Like you said, the league is basically being ran by the offense that he started, and it's going through his son, of course. And then all those guys, these young offensive wizards, they all got their start under him, and they use that rubric or blueprint that he laid, and it is crazy. It's crazy that honestly that Shanahan's not in.
And he's still coaching in San Fran. That's what I don't know if everyone knows that, but he's at practice. He's watching film. He's giving Kyle pointers. Huh?
Or he just is there, like, with his son, like, and just like.
Let me see if he's an official consultant. Let's see what we got. Let's see. No, they don't have him. They don't have him officially. According to his Wikipedia, he's not officially doing anything. Okay. But let me just read off his coaching tree. 15 assistants have become head coaches. Art Shell, Carl Durrell, J.D. Brooks.
Also the first black coach in NFL history. Go on.
Boom. Greg Robinson at Syracuse. Gary Kubiak, Super Bowl winning head coach. Tim Brewster, Minnesota. Troy Calhoun, Air Force. John Embry, Colorado. Anthony Lynn. She's the best coach the Chargers had since what's his name?
Marty Ball.
Yeah, since Marty Schottenheimer, including you, Brandon Staley. Sean McVay, Super Bowl winning head coach. Kyle Shanahan. Huh?
Said he's in the playoffs.
Anthony Lynn had a 12-4 season and made the playoffs, and then had like 7 or 9 seasons before they got rid of him. A. Lynn could coach. Charlie Jackson, Jed Fish, Matt LaFleur, Lou Spanos, Mike McDaniel. Like, come on, man. And 2 of his former players became head coaches. A. Lynn and Cliff Kingsbury. So, bro, this man.
I mean, I'm not surprised Cliff's a part of the Shanahan tree.
Yeah.
But I am, because why is he so mean? He's like Kyle Shanahan light. Shit's crazy. He's the Walmart. He's like value Shanahan.
He just doesn't like to run the ball. You know, the thing that helps you win.
But or maybe it's Khan's fault. I don't know. Somebody gave a running quarterback the money. I don't fucking know. But
they're all out of there. But no. So Oh my God! They just showed Brad Stevens' face sitting down there, boy. Don't you wish you were on that sideline and they were listening to you?
I'm looking at him.
So that kind of concludes the NFL portion of the show. So guys, hope you enjoyed part 1 of this show.